Guys, I have just relaunched my Patreon page, meaning I have added new tiers and rewards, including physical rewards such as prints and stickers. I would be super happy and grateful if you would like to check it out. Your support means a lot to me. Thank you. Hello everyone! I'm here again with some new products from Ohuhu, and today we have the brand new Nahuku acrylic paint markers. And what is new from the previous paint markers that I've tried from Ohuhu is that these are brush pens, which I'm very excited about. So we have 24 different colors and it comes in this very nice case. Oh, look at that, that is cute. And here we have the paint markers themselves. Wow, they look very profesh. I like it. And we get both a white and a black swatch card. Paint markers are usually opaque and they should work on most surfaces. Some paint markers though are a little less opaque, but since we're given a black swatch card, I have high hopes that these paint markers are fairly opaque. So this is what it looks like, and we have this little window where you can see the level of the ink. We have the color code, and then I thought it was the color name, Shake Then Enjoy, but that is just what it says on all the markers. And then finally we got the brush tip. It looks nice and pointy. Here you can actually see the ink moving around in there. It looks a little white, almost like it has separated. So if I give it a good shake, now it looks nice and even. And if you don't want to shake the markers one by one, you can just shake the whole case. But before we get into the paint markers, let's check out these ones real quick. These are the Kumimi journal pens. One end got this round dot tip, while the other end got this fine plastic brush tip. This is also a set of 24 and they are filled with cat hair. They are water-based and you can use them for bullet journaling, calligraphy, coloring and more. So yeah, I'm just gonna do a very quick test with these and then we'll get back to the paint markers. Also, these were sent to me by Ohuhu to try out. I am not paid and all I say will be my own and honest opinion as always. And if you would like to check out their art supplies, I will have all the links in the description box below, along with a 10% discount code for you guys to use. So yeah, let's get started. Alright, so the Kumimi dot pens comes in this super cute plastic pencil case, surprisingly not with a swatch card though, as the Ohuhu products usually comes with, so I will just have to make one myself. Also, I noticed that there is no color names or color codes on the pens themselves. There is no black pen in this set, but we do get 5 metallic pens that instead of the finer flexible plastic tip, they got a finer bullet tip. It is a nice selection of brighter pastels and metallic colors. So to demonstrate these dot pens, I thought it could be fun to do a bullet journal spread. And a little disclaimer, I don't do bullet journaling or hand lettering or any sort of thing, so apologize in advance for my terrible handwriting. On the case itself, it says that this is no bleed-through ink and the pages in this journal is super thin, so this will be a good test to see if that is actually true. The pens seem very juicy, so I'm impressed if they don't go through the paper. But yeah, I'm doing a little spread for the first week of March. I used a lot of bright and fun colors because, to be honest, March isn't a very colorful month. We do need a little extra splash of greens, yellows and pinks. I mostly used the fine tip for all the writing and the lines, which was very nice and flexible and worked even for the smaller details. The dot nib was perfect for doing the little check boxes or check circles in this case, and yeah, I can definitely see these pens being useful for bullet journaling or even for making art or hand lettering. Perhaps not my hand lettering though. You can see some of the lines through the page, but the ink hasn't really bled through, so that is good. So yeah, that's my little Kumimi dot pen demo. Let's move on to the paint pens. Apparently the pen case has this little handle tail thingy, which I didn't notice before. Cute. So as I mentioned earlier, we get both a white and a black swatch card for the paint markers, which I think is great. Colors tend to look different on different colored backgrounds, so now we will get a better idea of what the colors actually look like, depending if you work on a light or a dark surface. My very first impression is that some of the colors might look a little identical, especially the two lighter greens. Also, where are the teal colors? On the white, the colors looks fairly opaque and even, but on the black paper, we can clearly see that these pens might need an extra layer or two to look opaque, but they do have a very nice matte finish that I do like. I also wanted to do a quick combined test where I see the blendability of the pens and also how much they scratch the paper. Paint markers are generally known for eating through the paper and for leaving these little paper crumbs behind, but I think since these are brush pens with a much softer, flexible nib, they don't affect the paper as much. Even if I went over the same area multiple times, the paper seemed undamaged. The gradient turned out pretty decent too. It was easy to mix the colors while the paint was still wet. The paint also seemed to dry pretty quickly, which is great for someone like me that tend to drag my hand all over the place when drawing, so hopefully no smudging. So first up, I want to try these paint markers on a white background. So I found this round canvas board that I thought could be fun to make some cute art on. I'm starting with this gorgeous violet color for the sky, and right away I'm noticing that even on this white background, I will have to go over the painted areas at least one more time to get full coverage. It isn't too bad, and I'm pretty sure that on a smaller area it wouldn't be very noticeable, but on a larger area like this you will have to do multiple layers if you want an even solid color, and I did actually cut out a lot of it to avoid it getting too repetitive, but I basically colored each area twice. I also noticed that when coloring larger areas, the nib started to feel a little dry, but then I just gave the pen a good little shake and it became nice and juicy again. I chose to go with a more color blocking sort of style, which I think looks so good with paint pens, and I was considering doing a more painterly kind of style, mixing the colors a bit more, sort of like when painting with real paint, but I decided against it, mainly because I didn't want to contaminate the nibs too much. If the nib gets dirty from another color, you can clean it by scribbling with it on a scrap piece of paper, but then you also waste a lot of ink, and if you're doing it too much it might risk ruining the nib, and I didn't want to do that, so this is the style that I chose to go with. So as you have probably noticed, I'm drawing a little kitty peeking up behind some bushes with some clouds in the background, and I really like how this art is turning out. Unfortunately, I think the cat might be blending in a little too much with the background and the clouds behind it. There could have been more contrast, and I was considering to make the cat a little darker, but then also I really like this softer, lighter look. Then I was thinking if I should add some line work, but then I also really like the lineless style, so I guess this is just the way it's gonna stay. And I guess that is just the thing with working with paint markers in general. You have these pre-mixed colors to work with and you just have to do the best with what you got, but I still think it is very cute. And I will share my final thoughts about these paint pens a little further into the video, but my first impression so far is that I enjoy working with them. The brush nib makes them more versatile. One nib can make both finer and bolder lines, which makes the coloring a lot easier since you can reach into every little corner that the thicker bullet nibs can't reach. It makes the coloring less stiff than when working with regular paint markers, and the result looks more painted. Also, not having to switch between different nib sizes makes the process a lot more fluid. Then next up, let's test the markers on dark background. I have this black canvas board and I'm ready to fill it with a lot of bright colors in shape of these mushrooms. After the color swatches and the previous art, I was prepared to be doing multiple layers, and for some of the colors the black of the canvas is still showing through a little, even after coloring over the area twice, and I could probably have made even more layers, but I decided that this is good enough. And I think the texture of this canvas is a little deeper than on the white canvas because the paint seemed to dry a little slower on this one, like it was pooling up in the small dents of the canvas. So I brought out my hair dryer to speed up the drying process a little. So I'm continuing the blocky coloring style, but this time I'm leaving little gaps between the different colors, so the black of the canvas creates sort of like line art. It gives it almost like a lino cut print sort of look, which I really like. Alright, so then what's my final thoughts about these Ohuhu paint pens? When it comes to user friendliness, I think they are great. They basically comes ready to use, you just need to shake them a little, no activation is needed, which to be honest, when you have over 20 paint markers to activate, it is quite a tedious process. And once the markers felt a little dry when drawing with them, I just gave them a little shake and they became nice and fresh again. When working with regular paint markers, there is always a risk of paint blobs. Oh, these dreaded paint blobs. When there's too much ink flowing to the nib and it just floods out on the paper, but with these brush pens, no paint blobs. And again, the flexible brush nibs makes it so that you don't have to switch between different pens and nib sizes, so they are definitely fun and intuitive to work with. And no, they are not 100% covering. If you want a solid opaque color, you will have to make multiple passes, so that will add extra time to the whole drawing or painting process. To be fair though, Ohuhu are still quite new in this whole paint marker game and might still be working on refining their products. If we take a more established paint marker brand like Posca for example, they are not perfectly opaque or covering either. There are many different kinds of art mediums that needs a little extra work to achieve the desired result. Regarding the color selection, I do appreciate that they skipped all the metallics and the neon colors for this set. We get both darker and lighter tones, and there's brighter and pastel colors, but some of the colors, as I mentioned, are very similar, like the two lighter greens. I used both of them in this art, and one of them is a little warmer and one is cooler or more neutral, but there is almost no difference to them. And again, I would have loved more teal colors and perhaps a darker wine red. I do understand though that you can't add all the colors when there is a limited amount of space, but besides that, what I've already mentioned, I do think it is a good color selection. Perhaps there will be a bigger set in the future with even more colors. I would love that. The brush nib itself seemed to be quite durable. Even if I was drawing on these more textured canvas surfaces, the nib didn't seem to fray too much. You can see a little bit of usage, but it is barely nothing. And from what I saw on the paper test earlier, the brush nib seemed to be more gentle to the paper. But yeah, overall, I really like these paint markers and I can recommend them. So that are my thoughts on the Ohuhu Nahuku brush paint markers. I hope you found my review somewhat helpful, and I hope that you liked the art that I created. I have to say, I liked the previous painting on the white canvas, but this one looks so good. There is something so satisfying with seeing all the colorful blobs on this dark background. I'm very happy with how it turned out. Also, let me know if you liked the art on the white canvas or the black canvas the best. Thank you so much Ohuhu for the paint markers, and thank you guys for watching. Check out the links in the description box below if you would like to try this out yourself, and don't forget to use the discount code. So that is all for now. I will see you next time. Keep drawing my happy cats. Bye!